Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 17th of June 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Planetary Annihilation's alpha goes on sale for $90. Find out why a little bit later on. Ubisoft is asking PC gamers to show interest in a PC version of The Division. Photographs from E3 reveal that some Xbox One games were actually running on PCs with NVIDIA GTX cards. And a roundup of a couple of new indie bundles for you to check out. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Spiritual successor to Total Annihilation by the name of Planetary Annihilation had a very successful run on Kickstarter, raising a couple of $1 million in order to fund the development of this title. It's being developed by Uber, who are responsible for Monday Night Combat, along with several members of the original Total Annihilation team from Cave Dog, as well as some of the guys behind Supreme Commander. However, the game has encountered controversy after releasing on the Steam Early Access program for $90, which is significantly more than the finished cost of the game will actually be. This resulted in gamers going to the Steam forums, Community Hub, and even Metacritic with damning reviews of the product, condemning the company for its supposed greed. The situation was compounded by Metacritic allowing users to rate the game on the site, regardless of the fact that 1, they did not own it, and 2, it was still in alpha. Metacritic thankfully corrected its mistake a little bit later on and removed the Planetary Annihilation entry from its list of games. It should be noted, of course, that it is Metacritic policy not to allow users to rate beta products unless they have very specifically been authorized for review by the company in question. An example of that, of course, would be Warframe, a game which is very much in beta. However, the guys behind it said that it was acceptable to review it in its current state. Probably a mistake from them, honestly, but never mind. Okay, let's talk about this. What annoys me about this is not necessarily the price tag, but the reaction to it. I don't like to use the term entitlement all that much because I feel it's a tainted word. It's a word that was bandied about an awful lot back with the Mass Effect 3 debacle. It was even used by various media organizations, including ones as large as IGN, against the very consumers they were supposed to be protecting in the first place. So, the word entitled is one of those loaded terms that you can't really use all that much anymore. However, if there was a time when it would be applicable, I think it would probably be this one. So the reason this thing costs $90, as stated by Uber, is that the Kickstarter tier required to get alpha access was also $90. As a direct result, they felt it would be extremely unfair to those who supported the game in the Kickstarter to allow for alpha access at a lower price on Steam. Now, the price for early alpha access persists from June through to August, at which point there will be other versions available, which will be significantly cheaper. The Kickstarter price for Planetary Annihilation was $20, with a $15 pledge available for the first 5,000 backers in an early bird special. $40 got you access to the beta, $50 got you a limited edition commander as well as access to the beta, $90 got you access to the alpha itself. So, the situation is really quite simple. If you put the alpha on Steam at a cheaper price, only shortly after releasing the actual alpha itself to the Kickstarter backers, you piss off a lot of people. And more to the point, you piss off a lot of people that actually supported you from the very outset. Very bad idea. Very, very bad consumer practice. The fact that Uber didn't do this is very much something that I would agree with. However, I don't really want to be on their side completely here because we are still talking about $90 for early access, and it brings up a number of different questions. Firstly, should you be putting a game on Steam when you have an early access program through the Kickstarter, which involves paying significantly more than you would otherwise expect? Planetary Annihilation sticks out as a sore thumb amongst the early access program because it is by far the most expensive game there. Most early access games are significantly cheaper. Why? Because you're buying it at an early stage when the bloody thing doesn't actually work properly. You are getting involved in the development. The alternative to this, of course, would be simply not to put the game up at all on Steam until this period of time had passed, yeah? The reality of the situation is that putting it up on Steam gives you an additional source of revenue. Is $2 million enough to develop Planetary Annihilation with a team the size of Uber? Probably not. Yeah, we've talked about this before. Development of games is a very expensive process. Would it have paid for everything? Hard to say. I mean, Double Fine raised more money than this and already pretty much burned through it all. That's something to consider there. They had to do a new Humble Bundle just to raise yet more funds, and they're still kind of struggling when it comes to Broken Age. It costs a lot of money to make games, and the usual reason for that is either you have to outsource the work to contractors, which costs a lot of money, or you have to pay people, and game developers get paid a reasonable amount for the skill set they have. I don't honestly have a problem with them opening up an additional possible revenue stream here. It's a difficult thing for me to call because I've been gaming for so damn long, and I've seen the changes when it comes down to the alpha and beta programs. It's an interesting little switch that we've had. To start with, of course, alpha and beta access, generally you didn't get it. Yeah? Alpha access almost never, beta access sometimes, specifically for testing purposes only, usually free. Yeah, almost all the time it was free. Then you had a shift towards beta really meaning demo, yeah? Well, they opened it up to a lot more people, but for the most part, it was just the demo, yeah? It didn't really actually give any real method to provide constructive feedback, and even if it did, they didn't listen regardless. And now we've got another shift. We're shifting back into testing. We're shifting back into feedback-based stuff. However, we're doing it even earlier, and we're often putting a paywall in front of it. Early access is now a thing on Steam. I haven't really talked too much about it, but I think the only problem I really have with early access is that Steam isn't quite clear enough. I remember back when the Bedrock beta was released for War for the Overworld, right? And they just didn't even mention that it was on early access. They didn't mention it was a beta or anything like that. At least now with Planetary Annihilation, they've said, now available in early access. And, they're doing a better job of it this time around. And I think at that point, if you don't read that big blue box on the page, that's kind of your fault, yeah? Let the buyer beware when it comes to early access. And I've got to say, I don't really have a problem with these games putting up an additional optional revenue stream. If you want to pay to get into a game that probably doesn't work, that's really up to you. I don't feel you really have the right to condemn a company for actually allowing that kind of access. This is something that people desire. Planetary Annihilation at the time of recording is number 4 on the list at $90, which is actually ridiculous. It's ahead of Company of Heroes. It's ahead of Skyrim. I mean, that's bonkers. It is ridiculous that people are actually paying into this. I mean, it's got to be great for the guys over at Uber, the fact that people are paying in here. And I think, honestly, it's one of those unique situations where you just flat out can't say this is greedy. You could look at a game like, say, Call of Duty. Let's say you got access to the Call of Duty multiplayer for $90 a month before everybody else. Let's say that happened. Then you could probably make a case for the whole greed thing. You're exploiting the fact that people want in earlier. It's actually beneficial because it's a pseudo-competitive title. In this case, though, you're paying for an alpha that's nowhere near complete. And it's also a case that you can't screw over those early Kickstarters. I mean, think about the PR disaster that would have gone on. It's already kind of a PR disaster for Uber as it stands out, right? There's been a lot of negative feedback, and as far as I'm concerned, most of it is not justified. The ridiculous lying that was going on Metacritic just makes me sad. Metacritic and Amazon are already very much abused in the sense of, we're going to protest by lying about the product. That's our response to the perception that we've been lied to by the company. We're going to lie about the product. We're going to say, this is terrible, even though we don't own it, we've never played it, we actually have no right whatsoever to express that opinion because we are doing so in a very dishonest fashion. And it's a shame that they got hit by this. I think that if it was any other game in any other situation, then you probably have a right to complain about the price, the idea of gouging. But in this case, I think, honestly, what right do you have to complain? I mean, at the end of the day, it is an alpha. You are talking about making sure that it matches up to what the Kickstarters actually gave in the first place. And funnily enough, they got into this trouble because they were being friendly to their biggest fans. Because they were not screwing them over. And then they got screwed over as a result of that. It's very much a situation where I don't think you can win. But we're going to be getting into a lot more of this stuff. It's going to happen. Kickstarter is now a thing. Kickstarter is important. And it is affecting business models, and things are changing at a rather rapid pace. So we should, of course, keep an eye on the early access program and make sure that nothing untoward is happening. In an interview with Machinima, the developers of The Division said that a PC version will be made if there's demand for it, and have encouraged the spreading of the word, as it were, when it comes to trying to raise awareness for the product and show Ubisoft that a version is desired. The devs said that PC gamers should go ahead and sign petitions, get on the forums, and post their requests. The Division was a title that was a surprise hit at E3, very similar to the way that Watch Dogs blew up previous events, and as a result has garnered an awful lot of interest from PC gamers, particularly when they learned that it was in development by Massive Entertainment, the guys, of course, behind Ground Control and World in Conflict, widely regarded as one of the best RTS that's ever been made. However, you're gonna have to call me a little bit suspect on this one, because, quite frankly, why on earth would Ubisoft not release this on PC in the first place? That's what really gets me. Ubisoft has released almost every game that they've put out on PC over the last few years. Any core game that they release will eventually make its way to PC. Sometimes it won't come out on release, but it will get there. We're talking about stuff like Assassin's Creed, Call of Juarez Gunslinger, Far Cry 3, Trials eventually made its way to PC, Trials Evolution, that is. Splinter Cell. This stuff does come out. It does come out an awful lot, and it's very rare for Ubisoft to actually skip the PC platform. Very rare indeed. Would they do it in this case? It's hard to say, because we're now in a situation where new consoles are going to come out. Next gen is on its way. And as a direct result, we don't know for sure as to whether or not Ubisoft wants to dedicate more to those machines. Now, what we do know is that it's not a console exclusive, as in it's not on just Xbox One or PlayStation 4. It is actually on both systems. So that indicates to me that there's really no reason not to bring it out on PC. PC, of course, is a great format for that kind of co-op third-person MMO-ish style game. It's not directly an MMO as it were, but this kind of game definitely does very, very well on PC. Now, honestly, I don't really like the notion that companies have been going to gamers to do their marketing for them lately. There's been an awful lot of this. There was even speculation that things like the No DRM hashtag campaign was encouraged by Sony because they knew it would be good marketing for them. There's been an awful lot of this lately. There's also been reports of reputation management from various companies, shilling, just blatant shilling from various organizations, including, of course, Microsoft, on social media sites like Facebook and Reddit. And that, to me, is starting to get concerning. When a company in an interview flat out says, yeah, PC gamers, go and talk about this game on forums, go and sign petitions, go and raise awareness, then that says to me, do our marketing for us. The difference between something like this and something like Dark Souls was that there was not an intention to bring Dark Souls to PC. Demon Souls didn't come there, and more to the point, the developer didn't really have any experience developing good PC games. So when people came out and said, we want Dark Souls on PC, and the massive outcry about that, and said, yeah, we really, really want it, we eventually got it, it was a little bit of a different deal to this. Ubisoft, who, for the vast majority of circumstances, will release their core titles on PC. When was the last core game that Ubisoft released that didn't come out on PC? I think it would probably be Zombie U, honestly, and that's because that was a Wii U exclusive. The Division is not exclusive to either next-gen machine, so the likelihood of it not landing on PC is very, very low. I don't like being told by the developers or the publishers, please go and market our game for us. And look, we're excited about The Division, okay? It looks good. It looks very, very good. It's quite likely that we will get a PC version. It'll probably be delayed. Most Ubisoft games are like that. But I don't like being told, go and sign a petition and spread the word on this game. It's kind of my job to spread the word on games, whether it be positive or negative. That's kind of what the media is supposed to do, but it's not the consumer's job to spread the word about a title that they're then going to be sold. It's like, no, consumers are not free street teams for you. You know, get this into your head. Either you're gonna release it on PC, or you're not gonna release it on PC. Be honest about it, quite frankly. Don't speculate, don't leave it open. They never said that they weren't gonna release it on PC. They did not say, this is not coming out on PC. If they'd said that, then there would be a reason for people to turn around and say, oi, we want it on PC. But since they never said that to begin with, yeah, this smells very fishy to me. I don't like it at all. Well, E3 is now over, and various pieces of juicy information have been slowly trickling out of it, including the fact that there were, in fact, Xbox One games running on high-end PCs using Windows 7, as well as NVIDIA 700 series GTX GPUs. So I'm talking about most likely either 780s or Titans. Now, the reason we know this, of course, is because there were several photos from the event showing one of the so-called Xbox One demo machines having crashed to the Windows 7 desktop, and the actual compartment below the machine opened up, which revealed a PC with an NVIDIA GTX card. The particular design of the card, with the LED NVIDIA GTX logo on the side, indicates it can really only be a 700 series card, either a 770 or a 780 or a GTX Titan, which all use that same cooler design. Now, according to some of the developers for the PlayStation 4, the actual PS4 games were in fact running on development kits. We had people like Jonathan Blow come out and say, yeah, we actually worked really hard to get The Witness running on a PS4 development kit rather than running it on a PC. Although we do not know whether or not every single PlayStation 4 game was in fact running on a dev kit. We only had confirmation that some of them were. Also, we of course, do not know whether or not all of the Xbox One games that were demonstrated were also running on a PC. Although I do tend to lean towards that notion on the basis of what we saw during the Xbox One conference. For one thing, we did hear a Windows 7 error noise at one point, and secondly, when showing Battlefield 4, we very clearly saw the backspace button enabled for the battle log up to the top right corner of the footage, which would indicate that that was also running on a PC. What's especially embarrassing about this is not the fact that it was running on PC. This is definitely not the first time. It's a reasonably common practice, although not completely. The Xbox 360, when it was first unveiled, that stuff was actually running on Power Macs for the most part. But the reason it's embarrassing for Microsoft is the fact that they were running competitors' hardware in order to make this happen. What would appear to be running on this, I would imagine, would be Intel CPUs and the NVIDIA graphics card. We don't know about the CPU, but we do know about the graphics card. Now, the Xbox One runs on AMD hardware. It runs on an APU specifically, but it does run on AMD hardware, not NVIDIA. This, to me, is a particularly embarrassing thing. If I was AMD at this point, I would be pretty damn livid. But aside from the drama, what does it mean to you as an actual gamer? Not a huge amount, but what it does mean is that you cannot necessarily trust the footage that was coming out of the Xbox One conference, because for the most part that seems to be running on high-end PCs. We don't know just how much it will have to be scaled down, if at all. What we do know, of course, is that both the 770, the 780, and of course the GTX Titan are far more powerful graphical devices. The architecture is not identical, but if you want to just go by pure teraflop performance, the Xbox One is capable of 1.2 teraflops, whereas the GTX Titan is capable of 4.5. Even the 770, which is a lower-end card, is capable of around 3.2, which is by no means the same. I mean, that is significantly more potent, even if you take into account the different architecture. Now, with the PlayStation 4 stuff running on dev kits, one, we have an explanation for why the Assassin's Creed 4 footage crashed during the actual presentation. But secondly, what it shows to me is greater confidence in the actual product itself. Sony already went into this knowing that they actually have the more powerful machine. And that's been known for at least a month. That's really not new information whatsoever. But it does say to me that, yeah, we as Microsoft are not really confident that we can demonstrate everything at the fullest on our actual dev kits themselves. Again, though, what we don't know is how many games were running on the dev kits, if any, and how many games were running on PlayStation 4 dev kits. We know that The Witness was, but were all of the games? Well, Sony, of course, has been pretty quiet on that. We've only heard little pieces of information here and there from various developers. I believe there was confirmation that infamous Second Son was running on a dev kit, which was actually one of the more impressive-looking PlayStation 4 exclusives. But to me, this is just another kind of blow in the PR war that Microsoft is supposedly losing at every possible turn. It's indeed my hope that they can turn this around, because if they don't, then this is going to be a very one-sided console war, and that's actually not good for anybody. bear in mind, of course, that while Sony is getting so much consumer goodwill right now, they've done many anti-consumer things in the past. The recent statement that if you buy it, you own it contrasts rather starkly with the GeoHot situation, a guy that actually hacked the PlayStation 3 and he was then sued for that. Apparently, if you buy a PlayStation 3, you do not, in fact, own it in that respect. You can't really do anything you want with it. So there are some cases, little horsies, that you should beware the carrot more than you beware the stick. Always keep these companies at arm's length. They are there for one thing and one thing alone. And finally, a couple of indie bundles for you, just to round up today. If you want to get some cheap stuff, now is a good time to get it. So, we can start by having a look at the Humble Weekly Sale. This will be going on for another 3 days, and this actually contains a lot of games from the studio by the name of 11-Bit. They are mostly known for Anomaly, which is a tower offense game. They recently released Anomaly 2. This is not part of this bundle. However, the bundle does contain Anomaly Warzone Earth as well as Anomaly Korea, which is actually coming out for the first time on PC. That was not previously available. And we also have the mobile campaign from Warzone Earth, which is an additional campaign for that particular title that was previously only available on mobile devices, as well as Funky Smugglers and the Sleepwalker's Journey. The charities being supported in this particular bundle are the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which, considering the recent revelations about PRISM and the NSA unauthorized wiretapping, should probably be a charity you should be considering giving your money to. And of course, Child's Play is there as always. Currently, the average purchase price is certainly not that high. You will not have to pay an awful lot to break it and get access to Anomaly Korea. But for me, I would say that it's definitely worth picking up on the basis of the fact that Anomaly is actually a pretty good game. If you can get over the horrendous voice acting, it's a really nicely put together title. Kind of a shame that Anomaly 2 isn't in it, but I suppose that's to be expected. However, that would have raised the overall price significantly if it was actually available there. Regardless, available over at humblebundle.com/weekly. And the other bundle to look at would be the new Indie Gala bundle for June. This is available for the next couple of weeks. The bundle contains Creatures, The Albion Years, Pirates of the Black Cove, as well as several unlockable second week games. We don't know anything about those yet. Comes with Sword of the Stars Complete Collection if you pay more than a certain price, as well as Vessel and Aquanox. It's also got a game called Chester in there, and a little bit more will get you Star Ruler, Edna and Harvey, Harvey's New Eyes, and a new beginning Final Cut, alongside 3 other games that we don't really know about yet. The standouts from that bundle have got to be Sword of the Stars Complete and Vessel. Sword of the Stars Complete is actually incredibly fun. It's a bit of a light 4X strategy with an emphasis on exploration and battling stuff. It's got less of the diplomacy, less of the espionage, and so on and so forth. It's more about combat. Its combat engine is really quite good because it allows you to target very specific parts of the enemy ship, or indeed giant space creatures. It is one of the only games that allows you to fight giant space squids, and it is definitely worthy of your time. Sword of the Stars 2, on the other hand, of course, as we know, was a buggy mess. This one's pretty good. Comes with all of the expansions as well. Vessel is also a really good puzzle platformer involving fluid dynamics as its primary mechanic. And I'd also like to just shout out to Aquanox, which was actually a really fun submarine action game. It was used as a benchmark for an awful lot of time, actually. I had a lot of fun with that. It's brainless, but there's not all that many games where you get to drive around in a futuristic submarine and shoot things with plasma cannons, so that's always worthy of a look. You can pick up that bundle over at indiegala.com. That is indiegala.com, and almost everything does include a Steam key. Alright folks, that pretty much wraps me up for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go though, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. You can never go wrong with a bit of 6.2 sounds, I tend to find. This remix focuses primarily on a lot of guitar covers. Very cheesy. Cheesy in a good way, though. Really nice sound to it. Very 80s, early 90s kind of power rock stuff going on. And in this particular case, Super Hang On is a great title to create a track based around. The original song was called Outrider Crisis. The name of the track is Burn, Baby Burn. Really 80s, really awesome, very cheesy the way that I like it. Thank you very much, folks. Download the track in the description below this video, and I will see you next time.